going on, everyone? King here, back for another video. I hope everyone's doing well this Memorial Day weekend. So the title of this video is, I want to talk about the lies that are being told, the misinformation that's being told, that's being spread. If you see my other videos, you might know what I'm talking about, such as me trying to sell the air property to Walt Disney World for $25 million, that I'm doing this for revenge in regards to pursuing legal action to resolve the issues and taking the board to court for their actions, or I should say their improper actions or action to remove me from the board as the assistant secretary. What else I've been told as to discredit me. Let me see. I mean, there's a whole gamut, right? That I've lied, for one, that I've committed fraud by submitting fraudulent documents to the court in regards to the Quad Title Action hearing from 2017 to 2020. I knowingly spent money of the estate's money so that the board could not afford to hire a lawyer. So they want to have money to hire a lawyer in their defense, for their defense. However, the board has since making that claim, that statement, in the response to the complaint filed on them in March of 2022, the board have since used $3,500 for the legal defense. So money generated from leasing property for hunting, money generated from people paying a rental fee, if you will, towards the taxes for living on the property. So they use some of that money to pay the legal fees. At least $3,500 of it, anyways. What else I've been accused of? Whatever lies have been told about me. Let me see. I can go on and on, right? A lot of stuff escapes me right now, but I'm gonna deal with and talk about these lies. How there is actually evidence, documented evidence that says otherwise. Now, I will admit, there's a lot of he said, she said going on, as well as prior to when I got involved in this case, again, because this legal fight started in 2011. When the plaintiffs in the case of 9 individuals who sued members of my family, in turn they were named as defendants in the case. So from 2011 to 2015, there's this lawsuit over the conversion conspiracy of the property. Money was spent, hunting rights were signed, leases, giving lease agreements to the hunting club for $5,000, which was either on par with the annual property taxes or were under the value or the property tax cost or bill invoice. So for instance, if the property taxes was, say, $5,500, but the hunting rights was only $5,000. So then they're in a $500 deficit, right? So, and that was in every year. Every year from 2011 to 2015, actually prior to 2011, the land was being leased to hunters for anywhere from, let's say, $3,500 to $5,000, but it really never increased. And in 2011, 2015, there was no money coming in because of the lawsuit, because the court, by way of their attorney, the plaintiff's attorney, filed an ex parte order, a protective order, restricting any business being conducted on the property. So hunting rights, leasing, selling timber, building on my property, putting mobile homes on the property, and the whole 9 yards was restricted for those 5 years. So no money was coming in, only money was going out. So every year taxes had to be paid from the bank account. So $5,000 every year with no money coming in, loss of income, loss of revenue. Now, mind you, though, the current board says that I'm responsible. That when I was a manager, that I knowingly spent money. So how is that? How would I knowingly spend money when I've only been a manager, right, from 2019 to 2020, or actually into 2000, early part of 2021, we had elections, and then I became the assistant secretary. So how did I spend money? Like, as to say that I went into the bank account and just took money out of there. Well, one means that my name will have to be on the bank account, which is not. My name has never been on the bank account, for one, never. And that was part of the argument in 2011, from 2011 to 2015, as to, hey, who has access to the bank account? Whose name was on the bank account? And why haven't those individuals turn over the information pertaining to the bank account? So bank statements, financial records, tax records, receipts, the whole 9 yards, checks, clear checks, all that stuff was never really turned over, but it was entered as an evidence against my family. But in 2017, when I came in a plaintiff in the case to acquire the title to the property, to hold those individuals responsible, they only submitted the records as part of our discovery. So they submitted the records in answering our discovery. Request for production, our interrogatories, and whole 9 yards. But at no point in time, again, was my name on the bank account or on the records. I did not have direct access to said bank account. Even when I became a manager, even after we had the hearing in November of 2018, acquired a title, became a manager. We had the first meeting from February 14th of 2019 until I think November of 2019. Right? And then we carried on after COVID came about, 2020, after the order was signed in March of 2020, we had COVID. And our first meeting in 2020 wasn't until June of 2020. But he said I spent money. He said I've done all these things, committed fraud, I'm a liar, right? And they said other things too, like I've been seeing with my my government issued weapon, handgun, service weapon, my service weapon, and I'm no longer in the service. I mean, I retired in 2016. And for those individuals, really those on the board, when they submitted their response to the complaint, and they said that I've been seen with my service weapon. Really? So that means that I was issued a service weapon to carry off duty, or I was issued a service weapon to carry while on duty. However, that's not how it works in the military. Only those individuals who are in a law enforcement position or duty have law enforcement duties, such as MPs, military police, or for the Army, or for the Air Force, security forces, would you be issued a weapon? And that weapon is only going to be utilized while you're on duty, not while you're off duty. So yes, it is a service weapon, but no, I was not issued a service weapon. No, I do not own a service weapon. Do I own a handgun? Sure. That's well within my right. And I'm licensed and trained to carry a weapon, whether concealed or open carry. That's my prerogative. That's my right. And for them to say that is to say that I broke the law. I'm a criminal. For them to say that is to try to criminalize the fact that I'm one, I own a gun, and I carry a weapon. And to try to criminalize or try to weaponize their statements and say that he must be scared of the family. However, they forgot to realize, or they did not realize, or forgot to mention, to add context to their statement, that during the whole time that in pursuing to this lawsuit to acquire the title, that me and my family have been subject to the lies, the false information that's been spread, as well as um, threats or perceived threats of violence against me and my family, so that we brought this lawsuit before them. So there's times where I have um, called law enforcement to report people trespassing on the property, such as when they're in the woods. In 2017, it was discovered that people were trespassing on a property in the woods with their deer feeders, their deer stands, and they're running their dogs on the property. So I called law enforcement and I had to report it. And I reported that one of the defendants in 2000 and I believe it was 19 was in contact with Marion County Council, was in contact with surveying companies and other individuals, private citizens, in regards to the air property, was trying to conduct business on behalf of the air property. At no point in time was this individual a manager or had the authority to do so. He took it upon himself to do that. So I had my lawyer send him a cease and desist letter reminding him that there was a judgment or a pending judgment, a pending order, right? Um, as well as agreements were made in court as far as who would have management authority over the property until the order is signed, which was me, members of my family, and the elderly ladies, right? So he took it upon himself, the gentleman, the defendant in the case, took it upon himself to hurl insults and false allegations that one, that me and my uncle, my mother's brother, who also was a manager, burned down our cousin's trailer. That we fought with our cousin and burned down the trailer. And that my mother confronted the grandchild, as well as son of one of the defendants, or two defendants, saying that she made threats and harassment towards him. So put this all in the letter, put all in the letter to my lawyer, which was a big mistake. But then my lawyer responded and says, well, if you got evidence of my clients fighting with cousins and burning down trailers and Miss King doing this, that, and third, present it to the law enforcement. Report to the authorities. And let's get it on record so we can deal with it. No response. He didn't respond. Didn't respond not one bit. But here it is again. Fast forward for today, me bringing this lawsuit against members of the board and others, that all they can do is spew their lies and their misinformation to discredit me and my mother, as to weaponize their words, as to try to deflect blame or deflect responsibility for their actions. So they're ready to spew these lies, accuse me of fraud, of lying, um, and make other statements, derogatory statements such as, I'm trying to sell this property, I've been seen with my gun, so I must be afraid of the family, um, that I'm crazy and delusional, that I'm a dictator, I'm that of the devil. How's it going? And so, I've talked to other members of my family, and I mean, they all know the truth. So it's just a matter of time for the truth to come out. It's just a matter of time when things are going to be done to where, let's put everything on record. Let's really put what they're saying to the test. Let's let them present their statements under oath on record, as well as their evidence. And I will do the same. Me and my mother will do the same. And let's see, like the judge said, it might be best for y'all to, one, mediate this case, but have a hearing to see who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth, or who's right or who's wrong, because he doesn't really, well, the court doesn't know who's telling the truth and who's not telling the truth, or who's right and who's wrong. And this is the third lawsuit, right? But I didn't start this. I didn't start it. It was started way before I came home and got involved. And the things that I was told, was already known by my family, to include my late grandmother, her children. What are the squirrels doing? See a squirrel? My late grandmother, her children, cousins who are the cousins who are my grandmother's cousins. So they are essentially the living great grandchildren of Toby Cox. No, they know this stuff. But they won't listen to them. They have not been included into the conversation. They have not been included into the decisions, the management decision and actions. Granted, the board has some authorities under the bylaws for day-to-day control of the property. But when it comes down to putting trailers on the property, spending money, and entering hunting lease agreements for hunting, for selling all the timber, those type of things need to be presented to the people. And I'm part of those people. Me, my mother, my cousins, her brothers and sisters, and really to include my grand aunts and uncles, who are my grandfather's living brothers and sisters, who are the living grandchildren of Washington James. They have rights, and they have not been properly informed. They have not been notified of these management decisions and actions carried on by the board. And it is not my responsibility. Now, if I was a assistant secretary, by all means, yeah. My role, the role of the assistant secretary, is to support the secretary, right? Whoever's in that position, to make sure that, hey, administratively, things are being done properly. That's the role of a secretary. But the board as a whole, their role and responsibility is to make sure that all management decision actions are being presented to the people, whether for approval or just for their information, just for, hey, here's what needs to happen, and here's why it needs to happen. Here's what's going on with the property. Here's what we pay the taxes. Taxes was this much money, and so forth and so forth and so forth. But not to sit there and have total dominance of managing the property, and that everybody else, and to include myself and my mother, they're not able to speak on it, or they do speak on it, they're frowned upon. They speak, it says, no, that's not the case. That's not supposed to happen. You're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, or I think this is supposed to happen. And the minute that doesn't fit into the board's agenda, they're going to go stiff arm them like they did me. The minute I spoke up, I stood up and said, no, you can't do this. Here how things are supposed to be. The bylaw says this. I'm a dictator. Let's get rid of him. Oh, he served us with a cease and desist letter. Therefore, we don't want to deal with them. Oh, yeah. So that reminds me. There it is. So in the response to the complaint, it was said that I started to distance myself, not to show attention to, or I started to not want to be involved in the management of the property. But at no point in time did he say when that was, or if that was true. They have presented evidence to say that was true because, again, I was voted in as assistant secretary from March of 2021 And we had executive meeting, an oath of office, oath of enlistment, excuse me, oath of enlistment for officers in April 2021. So we had a first estate meeting in May of 2021, and so essentially from April 2021 until I served the board the cease and desist letter in November of 2021, I've been involved. I attended every board meeting and every estate meeting, even when I was on vacation in Thailand. I dialed into one of the meetings in October of 2021. And I flew back home, right, to make it just in time to go to the meeting, the estate meeting that was held in October 2021. So what are they talking about? And then we had another board meeting in early part of November of 2021. But yet they say that I started to show disinterest in the board and be on the board and help on managing the property. False. Another lie. With zero evidence. So again, I look forward to presenting this to the court. Allow me to get on the stand to testify to this, and my mother testify to this. Let's call other cousins and really get to the truth of the matter. Them saying it, or them saying this, that, and the third, to include their lawyers. The lawyers can get up there and say, Judge, well, he's responsible for this. He's doing this because of revenge because they voted from the board. He wrote the bylaws, and now he's mad and upset, and he's bitter and petty, whatever the case may be. Go right ahead. Let's present the evidence. Let's see about it. Let's see who's telling the truth, who's lying. And I look forward to um, seeing the evidence and in the forms of my emails, my text messages, and everything else. I'm going to speak to it. I'm going to explain myself that because of all the he said, she said. Again, my grandmother says saying something. Granted, she's not here. May she rest in peace. My mother, her children, my uncle and aunt, and other cousins, to include those that are on the board and everybody else, saying this, and that, and the third, that this is true and now this is not true. Cliff is a liar, or this person was lying, or this and the third. That's okay. Let's all go to court and make sense of this. But regardless of the fact, the order is the order. It's been signed. Like I said before, it was not set aside. There was no motions filed for dismissal by the defendants when they were defendants in the case. Their lawyer resigned. Their lawyer filed a motion in I think it was December 4th of 2019. He filed a motion to be relieved of their counsel, to remove himself from this case. That was in December of 2019. And he went before the court, went before the judge, right, Mr. Hay Porter, in March, I think it was March 2020. And I didn't really know about it. A lawyer mentioned it, so hey, they want to try to remove themselves as a counsel. I said, okay. I said, then once he got notification, I was like, hey, sign the order. Let's go. Judge signed the order. They had 35 days to that effect after being served to try to appeal the order, and they didn't do so. They didn't appeal it. They did not appeal it. The defendants in the case, who made claims to be heirs of property, did not appeal it. Their names on the end of the order, they're not heirs to estate. But I would say this: members of my family, the living grandchildren of Washington James and the living great grandchildren of Toby Cox and their families are all named in the order as heirs to the property, as heirs and owners to the property. So again, people can spew their lies, their misinformation. They can spew their hatred and jealousy and ignorance towards me. That's fine, but I look for the truth, man. Let's get to the truth. I will stand tall and take my responsibility if I'm responsible for something, for being part of the lawsuit, for being a plaintiff in a lawsuit that was one funded because it came out of my pocket. You know, for me, spending my money for legal fees, for me, spending my money for paying the taxes to make sure the taxes were paid when you couldn't access the bank account, uh, to leading the board, even though I was not the leader. We're all were managers. We're not called the president. I wasn't called the vice president. I wasn't called the secretary. I was called a manager. So the 5 managers were collectively manage the property. Yeah, I led the board because you know what? The elderly ladies and my uncle and everybody else did take on that role. I'm glad to show the evidence in court. Let me press play on my videos. Let me press play on the audio recordings. Let me show the meeting agendas and meeting minutes, and let's see who did all the talking. They had an opportunity because I paused and says, "Hey, anything that you want to say, anything that you want to do, anything you got." Well, but I have a target on my chest, right? I'm the punching bag. I'm the scapegoat. I'm the fall guy because nobody wants to be held accountable. Everybody wants to wash their hands of it. Even when it came to the bank account, the elderly ladies and everybody else didn't want to touch the bank account. They didn't have nothing to do with the money because they didn't want to be accused of doing X, Y, and Z. But yet there's evidence as to what they did. But they want to wash their hands of it. I didn't do that. No, that's not true. Not me. I didn't do nothing. That's not true. Again, I look forward to going to court. I look forward to dealing with this, and hopefully things will play out. Um, I am scheduled to be with my lawyer in a couple of days, uh, and to map out a strategy or figure out what's the next step. You know, because we had the 2 hearings back in August of 2022, and the board didn't have an attorney then. The board did not have an attorney when we had that first hearing. And they got away with making false statements. Right, it wasn't on their oath. I made false statements that they were being transparent, open, honest, and that they were trying to work with me. And I've since requested the transcripts for that hearing. I've yet to get it. I sent 2 emails requesting the transcripts, and the court reporters have not granted me that request, have not responded to my request, have not sent those to me. And we had this other hearing on May 22nd of 2023 this year. We had another hearing, again, the ex parte, tried to restrain the board from um, conducting more business on the property until this is all resolved. But again, the judge is like, I don't know who's right and wrong, man. You need to have a hearing, a jury hearing, that is. Not just a hearing, but a jury hearing. So let's go. Let's get it done. So I'm going to meet with my lawyer and figure out what's the next step, how are we going to do this? Excuse me, how are we going to do this? And make sure that when we go record, when we go to this hearing, that everything lines up properly, that all the evidence will be submitted, that those that we need to call as witnesses will be called as witnesses and testify to this. Right? I'm going to present all the evidence. Let's go. Let's stop playing. Let's stop wasting money. Let's stop wasting time. Let's get it done. Because the members of my family, right, the living heirs, owners of the property, right, to trace the lineage back to Washington James and Toby Cox, they're waiting, right? They have rights to this property. They have the right to be heard. So let's just stop wasting time and let's get it done. Versus the board and their supporters just, why can't we do this? Or what's the problem? What's the issue? The issue is you're not following rules and following laws. No matter what you think and feel about it, if it's in writing, it's in writing. Because if you don't follow rules and laws, guess what? And somebody else owns this property, they're gonna make you follow rules and laws. Especially if you're living on property that someone else's own. If you're a renter, if you don't own that property, but yet you living on it, or even you're trespassing on it, you think that owner's gonna allow you to keep doing what you want to do on their property? No. But this is air property, so everybody has a right, regardless of what they think and feel. And that's why we had this temporary board. Before I even came on board, we got involved, there was already a board in place. So historically, there's been issues with the boards not allowing everybody to have a voice. And I will present that to the court. So let's get past these lies, these misinformation, and everything else. Let's get to the truth. And people nowadays do not want to be held accountable. That's why it comes down to That's why they think it's okay to spew their lies, to spew their ignorance, to weaponize their words, to weaponize their hatred, to weaponize their jealousy. They can say, well, you're weaponizing by filing a lawsuit. No, I'm not. I'm trying to get y'all to follow the rules and follow laws and preserve and protect the interests of not just me, my mother, but my family, who have rights to this property, who are named in order as being an heir to the property, as being an owner to the property. That's what it comes down to. So I'm talking long enough. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I appreciate those that watch my videos. Give a like, share this video, leave a comment, and catch another video. Take care. Peace.